Hi, I'm Ruth Ann Norden,
And I'm Syas Nitsick.
and I think in the first video on this topic of stages of writing, we said there were 5 videos, but there's really 6.
There's really 6. Jan
We
can't
probably
count.
no, we probably forgot all about critiquing or editing or something. But that's okay. This is the last one. This is on publishing.
It is.
So,
And
did you want to start?
well, Ruth knows a lot about this more than I do, but you do have two types of publishing. You have your self-publishing and you have your traditional publishing.
Right. Do you want to just kind of define what each is?
Self-publishing is when you do it yourself, and traditional publishing is when you go to a publisher, mainline publisher, or a small press, something along that line. Schuler, isn't it?
Simon and Schuster would be like a big one.
Big one, and then you have your small ones, small presses.
We go with Parchment and Plume. That's a small publisher.
And she takes just romance, and some of them will take everything, and some of them will not. A lot of times you can find some of these, at least small publishers, you can find a lot of times at conferences that they'll be there and
they'll have a representative there.
Have a representative there, and you can show them your work. I would suggest really doing that. Have a polished copy. A lot of times they'll want your first 5 chapters, something like that, and or your first chapter, I think it is. Some are first chapters, some are first 5.
See, I haven't done any of this. She's
and then they also want a synopsis of the story. And so you want that, and then they usually want I call it a cover letter, but that isn't official the name. There's something else that they call it besides cover letter.
Some kind of title page or something.
Yeah,
just kind of brief information
it's just
about
brief
maybe
information
like
about you and
genre, stuff like that.
it's just your introductory letter. My mind is query letter. Query letter is what they call it. So,
and that basically is like just a brief line, a brief description about your book, who it's intended for, what kind of background you have. Like, do you have any other books published?
And also they like to know what kind of platform you've built. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, those kind of things too, and what kind of marketing you're going to do, because a lot of the traditional publishers, you're still your big sellers like Stephen King, things are still going to sell, but you're trying to break into a big publishing company. It's very difficult nowadays because unless you've got name recognition, they just don't have the money, to be honest. Publishing world has changed so much with ebooks and things like that. So it's so hard to get in on something like that. They don't have the money that they used to because you've got all these other things competing with them, and they just don't have it. Mid-list authors have lost their publishing companies because of that they aren't bringing it. They're bringing money, but not enough. They want more, so so more and more promotion. Even if you're with one like that, you're having to do more and more your own promotion versus them promoting you as much, and that kind of thing. The advantage to having a traditional publisher is that they do their own editing and things like that. They do your own cover design. They give you an advance, but let me tell you a story about advances. If you don't sell out your advance, you have to pay that advance back or a portion of that advance back. And so just because you get $10,000 up front.
Well, I don't think you actually get it all at one time, though.
Yeah, well,
they spread it out.
They might spread it out, but anyway,
if you don't, some to actually give it all at once.
I think so. It depends on how well you're known. If you have
if you're well known, you're probably getting a lot more than $10,000.
Right. So but if you don't sell that money advance out, I didn't realize that until I went to my first conference. That comes back out. It comes back on return books, and you don't get royalty checks because of those return books until that comes out.
Well, and sometimes they may not publish you again.
Yeah, because of that, because you didn't make it. Right. So,
but small presses, usually small publishers, I don't think for the most part, I don't think they really offer any advances. It's kind of when you sell books and you get royalties off of it, and I actually prefer it that way because then there's no advance against me.
Right.
And it's whether or not I sell the book, I'm not really out.
Right. Exactly. Well, and actually, depends on your publisher. Every publisher is different, so I'm speaking about some publishers, but usually it's 10 to 15% for a major royalty check from a traditional publisher.
Do you think that's with a small press too? I think small presses can offer a little bit more.
Small presses, I think, offer a little bit more depending on the publishing company, but sometimes you can make up to 40% or something like that. It depends on the publishing company. I would suggest if you go with a traditional publisher, you read their guidelines.
Right. No, make sure that they actually publish the books that you're writing. and that you can
read their guidelines.
Yeah.
If they're telling you that they only want 5 pages, you give them exactly what
Right.
they want. I've heard more and more at conferences that they have all this information on there that you can access on their website and everything, what their guidelines are, and they don't follow the guidelines. Well, what are you going to do? They're going to throw it in the trash.
Right.
Because they've got other people they can look at, and they don't have to weed through yours when you didn't follow the guidelines.
Right.
So traditional publishers are very, very picky about what they do, but they can be.
Yeah, and I think the best place, really, if you don't really know anyone in the business, would be conferences.
Exactly.
Because, making that one-on-one connection, a face with a name, you're going to have an easier time getting your foot in the door.
Not like that, then you follow up on there, and I says, I met you at such and such conference.
Sure
do you remember me?
Yeah.
And I'm asking about and also the other thing you can get there at conferences is a literary agent. And the literary agent will take your work, and then they'll go to different publishing companies and see if they can get them produced.
Right.
But you can say, if you say that you had this content and you met them personally at this conference, it's going to mean so much more to them than you coming out of the blue.
Right.
So conferences are really good about that. And I'm not saying a right or wrong way on however you want to go. It's just whatever appeals to you. But it is hard to get into your major ones. I do know that, especially. It was always hard, but it's even more difficult today.
And see, they're going to want to know your platform too, and know that you have people willing to buy your book, ready to buy it, because they need money to stay open.
Exactly.
It's not personal. It's just that's how businesses run.
Well,
and since this is running into about almost 7 minutes, I think we should just say this is the topic for traditional publishing.
Okay.
And then maybe so we're going to do another video.
Okay.
Number 7 will be.
Will be number 7. We're going to do one on self-publishing.
Yeah.
We talk too much. No.
Yeah. Is there anything else? But you brought up good points.
Yeah. No. I think that really hits it. It's just right now things are not settled in the market until they settle out, and they don't know exactly when they'll settle out with the ebooks and things like that. Things could change, but right now this is kind of in transition, and it's really more difficult today with traditional publishing. Right. Except for your small presses, like you said, those are really good.
I actually think small presses could pave the way for some of the future.
Exactly, I do too. I
really
think so too. And you got more of a personal relationship with that small press.
Well, you do. They're more likely to work with you. You're more likely to keep your content, and it just depends on the publisher. Some are really good, but do check the backgrounds, how reputable they are.
One thing I would check is go to your Better Business Bureau and check them out and see.
Well, there's also Writer Beware.
Okay.
Is a site that you can check on.
Because I had one that somebody referred me as a literary agent, and I found out that they actually had lawsuits against them, and I never went with them. And I went through the Better Business Bureau. So do things like that.
But like I said, also in conferences, you get to know writers and you get to know publishers. So that another. And if you're on social networking media, you can come across authors and learn about publishers that way too.
Exactly.
I mean, this is just another reason, I keep harping on it, but it's another reason to be engaged online and get to know people. And I do still think conferences are great.
Yeah,
because you get the in-person connection.
Or
really.
If you're a member of a certain writer group and you got a loop, you can ask about how you know about this publisher, and somebody might have some reaction with them and give you input. Sounds
so
good.
The next time we'll talk about self-publishing.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna really wrap it up.
We'll get it. We'll get there.